Aloha, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Faith and Family First. I'm your host, Eva Andrade, and I'm back with Marcus Oshiro and Bob McDermott. And today we're going to talk about something that might sound a little bit technical at first. It's federal money that comes into the state of Hawaii to fund sex education and programs for our young people. Well, recently, the federal government sent out a letter to every state, including Hawaii, with very specific instructions on how these programs should be run. But here's the real question. Do these instructions reflect the values of our local families? And who gets to decide what these kids are taught? To unpack this, Marcus and Bob are going to look at what this letter means for Hawaii's parents, children, and the community, and how we can better respond with wisdom. So let's chat about that. Oh my goodness, this conversation is gonna take me back. Yeah. And so let me say, if we have anybody who's going to be sending angry emails, please send it to Bob. No.
Representative McDermott at Gmail. I still keep that if you want to comment. Representative McDermott at Gmail.
No,
I'll take the hate.
We want to have an open discussion. And so if you're watching this on YouTube and you disagree, put a comment and maybe we'll have Bob come back and answer some of the comments. It's very important that we have open conversation. That is the one thing that I took away from the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I'm going to make sure that everything we do provides that opportunity for people to raise their voice. So that's my little memory of him and how we can move his legacy forward.
Ava, have you ever... there are two ways to opt out of this material. The sexual. It's first of all, it's not the sex ed we had in high school. Certainly not what you and I had in high school. Where today it was more of a health course. You know, okay, boys over here, girls over there. And this is what I grew up.
And let's talk about things like deodorant, and let's talk about body
Don't
care.
Use drugs.
Yeah.
We have a program here.
And even, which surprises me that it's not taught now, but because I do want to back up a little bit and talk about Pono choices, because I do think all this ties in. But I remember when I was in school, they actually showed like what happens when an egg is fertilized by a sperm and the baby growing biology and all of that. Yeah, but now that kind of stuff is not taught, is my understanding.
What I support is a biologically based education program on male-female reproduction in the context of what you just said, a holistic health course that teaches them don't do drugs. We have one here. It's called Health Teacher. That's the only one. I reviewed all the sex ed programs when I was in about 2018.
And how many do we have?
So we had about 4 or 5.
And what caused you? I think this is very helpful.
The Pono choices,
right. And so just in case we have listeners that don't understand, back up a little bit and explain how that came about. So
same-sex marriage passed. And before you know it, like in 2 months, they're floating now with the justification and I brought it up on the House floor when we debated. I'm sorry, I'm pointing at you. I'm back in the old mode.
Here, let me get the microphone.
I said, this bill never went through the Education Committee. And it's absolutely going to impact the schools. And you know who stood up and rebutted it? Takumi, the current Board of Education chairman. This will never be taught in the schools. Oh, well, Roy, I think you're wrong, buddy. He hated me, but he really did.
No, he did.
Oh, yes, he did. Because I represented everything. Military guy comes here, marries one of the beautiful girls on the island, and he stayed, damn it.
Anyway,
I know you don't want to. He's your buddy. He's your friend.
Yeah, anyway.
But he wouldn't lose any sleep over me. So okay. Yeah. So they're now teaching 10-year-olds, excuse me, Ava, I say this, anal sex. But it's not focused at the male and female. It's focused on male and male. To wit, they had, so they're teaching this behavior. It's illegal to penetrate someone under 14. It's illegal. And here's what they teach them. They teach them you can have sex when you think you're ready. Not what mom and dad say, not what your boyfriend or girlfriend says, not what anyone says. It's when you're ready. Okay, so, well, I'm ready right now. If you're a boy, I'm ready. I'm 13.
I'm ready all the time.
Yeah.
Is the clock turning?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
So, but they say that, and they say, and then we tell them with the material, there's no behavior off limits, right? You can do anything you want, and we describe these behaviors. Well, you need to lube up, especially if you're men, and well, you may want to wear a condom, that's that, but it's not like it used to be. I remember when Magic Johnson got AIDS. He said, Magic Johnson, the guy who bragged about having sex with 7 women at one time, why would you want to do such a thing? I don't understand it. But he said, if you're going to have sex, make sure it's safe sex, and that is with a condom in the context of a long-term monogamous relationship. That was what the watchword was through the 90s, right? Now we're telling kids, anytime you want, it's up to you. And there's nothing off limits. And your partner is whoever you decide is. You decide who your partner is. Okay, well, Weird Uncle Willie came down the hall. We shared some marijuana and some Colt 40 malt liquor. And next thing I know, he introduced me to this behavior. And, well, I found it somewhat pleasurable. And that's the problem. Why would you teach anal sex to 10-year-olds when they can't be penetrated till they're 14? And I asked that lady, Hawaii Youth Services Network, I don't know if she's still there.
Judith Clark?
I think so. Older lady, I'll admit.
Yeah,
they need the services.
We better cut that out.
Oh my God.
We better edit that.
They're 10 years old. What do you mean they need the services? What do you... Remember, free discussion.
Let's frame this a bit. So, because of same-sex marriage, these discussions were taking place at what you're saying, and so that caused you to actually look at what the curriculum was
First, I couldn't get it.
Point. Right, you requested it. I remember this.
They wouldn't give it to me. They said I needed training. Maybe they knew me better than I thought, but they said you need training. I said, wait a minute, you're giving this to 10-year-olds. That's all I'm asking for.
What does Hawaii law say about that? Do you remember from, as a parent, can they request looking at the curriculum?
I believe so.
Well,
I believe so.
If I may interject, in Pono Choices, it was based on a UH grant. I know this by heart. And it was considered a human experiment.
Right.
So informed consent is necessary. They never had that, never got it. And then they asked the kids to review the course, and they were given a $10 gift card if they participated in the review. Well, sure, I'll review it. Can I get another one? Sure. Okay. Well, what do 10-year-olds do? Oh, McDonald's card. Yeah, it was great. Wonderful. Oh, 78% said it was a great course. They spent $35,000 of taxpayer money on gift cards to children, I believe, to unduly influence them to fill out these surveys in a positive nature. The whole thing was bad, but it's nothing compared to what they're doing today. Nothing. We got these aggressive sexuality lifestyles. And I want to tell you a story, and real quick. In kindergarten, this is... so you guys know my grandkids are living with me, or were living with me. My son's in the Navy. He transferred. My 5-year-old granddaughter, or I don't want to say her real name. Let's call her Leilani. But she's 25% Hawaiian, Filipino, white, Samoan. She came home. She's the apple of my eye. I love all my grandchildren, but I helped raise her for about 3 of her first 5 years. My wife and I were involved. I love her. I love them all. But I have a special relationship with her, and that's just the truth. Picked her up from school, 5 years old. Ava, you know my wife. We have a crucifix in every room in the house. Her parents were Word of Life, Art Sepulveda's. They were going to church 1 to 2 times a week. So I know she's not getting whatever from home. And her mom was really tight on what they could watch. And they were banned for the screen time, banned, she's really tight on it. and she's born again, full on in love with the Lord. So the little girl comes home. She's 5. I said, okay. She played in the kiddie pool. Okay, Siva, go shower and then come put your short on. You change your clothes. So she comes out with just her short on. And I said, I guess I already used her real name, Siva. Siva's her name.
We can edit it out.
Their parents are gone. They're on the mainland now, so she's not here anymore. But I said, Siva, she just had shorts on. I said, Siva, put your shirt on. She's 5 years old. She said, why, Papa? I said, because you're a girl. You got to cover your susu. That's a Samoan word for breast. She said, but Papa, I'm a boy. I'm a boy. I'm not, as the Lord is my judge, I swear this is true. In my house, in front of me, this 5-year-old precious little girl in kindergarten said that. Where did she get that from? Where did she get that from? So she's in school with first graders, second graders, third graders, and fourth graders who are getting a much more progressive input than the kindergartners are. At least I'm hoping they're not exposing the kindergarten, but they are. And she said that to me. Well, if she said that to her teacher, what would the teacher say? What could the teacher say legally? Oh, well, we'll just keep it a secret from your parents for now. They can say that legally. And if you want to, put on boys' clothes, we can do that too and keep it a secret from the parents. That's why this is demonic, because it's taking away parental rights and control, and it's creating a cultural conflict within the home.
So actually, that's a great detailed way of looking at this. And of course, President Trump is elected to his second term, and he puts out this new idea, or actually he pushes it through his administration, that no, we're not going to start giving federal funds to states that continue this type of education. And so Hawaii received a letter from, you have the letter in front of you.
Children and Administration for Children and Family, Office of the Assistant Secretary.
And so they write a letter to the state of Hawaii Department of Health, right? Mm-hmm. And they said, okay, you need to look at what you're teaching there, and you need to make adjustments to these type of problematic curriculum. So where are we with that?
Well, I wrote Governor Green a letter about 6 weeks ago asking him that very question. No response. I sent a follow-up email. No response. I don't know, Marcus, is that unusual for a governor not to respond to a former elected official?
Well, what's the process?
Who I personally know.
Walk people through the process. So this letter gets sent. It was sent on August 26th, and it was sent to the Hawaii Department of Health, and it was written by Andrew Gradison, which is the acting assistant secretary to the Administration of Children and Families. So they get the letter. What's the process?
Well, it looks like to me, Marcus, so you can look at that. It looks like he only identified one sexuality education program. They're not sex ed program. They're sexual lifestyles program. To call it sex ed is a misnomer. We had biologically based study of male-female reproduction. They're bringing in adult behaviors or misbehaviors, whatever your point of view is, and disorder, for sure, into our children's lives. But like I said, there were 5 programs I reviewed, and the only one that passed muster was health teacher. It was comprehensive and thick. And what the thing about health teacher, why did it pass? Because it was written in 1990.
And Hawaii we used to have where we were abstinence based, right?
Yeah.
So even though they got around that a lot of times by just having one quick, lesson on abstinence, that was removed by the Hawaii State Legislature. So now we're not even an abstinence based state anymore.
We're the Board of Education. Planned Parenthood did a great job in their attacking on this. They went to the legislature, so that's where I was focused, and we defeated it in the House. But the next thing you know, literally the next day, it's at the Board of Education, and I got a call from someone over there at the Board of Education. you can figure out who it was. So can you. The guy goes to church. I don't want to mention his name, but he called me. He said, "Hey, partner, we need some help." I said, and he didn't want to be my friend, obviously. I tried to be a friend to him. Hey, let's have coffee. No, thanks. So, okay. I asked him several times. I got the message. But then he calls me on this. And we went down there, Susan Duffy, other people organized. And then we had the ultimate testimony was about 120 against and maybe 84. So 80 for it, 120 against. That was kind of the ratio. It might have been 150 to 100, something like that. But we were in the majority. The vast preponderance, legal term I want to impress you, vast preponderance of testimony in support was from Planned Parenthood Northwest email support. So no local people. And I know you've knocked on probably maybe 500,000 doors in your career. I was thinking about how many doors we actually knock, right? And did you ever have someone come to you and said, Marcus, I love you, brother, but we need sexuality education in kindergarten? Did anyone ever say that to you? Of course not. So why did we do it? Who pushed it? What's the agenda? By the way, one thing parents need to remember when they say, well, it's medically accurate, age appropriate, and evidence based. You know what I'm talking about. That tag on everything, including the transgender stuff. It's amazing. Who determines that? Well, there is no board or committee or commission. There's no experts in fetology, neonatology, child psychiatrists, child therapists, a broad range of commission of experts gets together and they hammer it out and they develop a consensus on what, these experts feel. No one does that. Planned Parenthood just puts that in there. They have one doctor on staff. He's based in New York City. Everybody else is an independent contractor. We discovered that because I was like, wait a minute, this isn't right. It's not. What are they talking about?
Well, if we take this at face value,
sorry,
because it does build to why we're talking about this today. It is that the federal government is claiming that if this is not taken care of, that we're not going to receive funding anymore.
As we shouldn't. The parents never asked for this. Parents never wanted this. They didn't say do this, and they're paying the bill. The parents are the customer. And it's like new Coke, old Coke. Oh, we're going to give you new Coke. Well, I didn't ask for new Coke. Give me the classic. I don't want this. Well, you got to listen to your customer. What does the customer want? They should spend more time on the basics. Take the kids' phones away when they go in there, reading, writing, arithmetic. And if you're going to teach them other stuff, that's fine, but not this. There's no medical reason to teach this. There's none.
Well, I'll tell you what.
It's harmful, obviously.
Well, I tell you why it concerns me. Well, there's many reasons why it concerns me, but, looking at it from a legislative lens, and both of you have experience on this, right, is that when SB 1 was passed a couple of years ago, protecting abortionists here in the state of Hawaii, we were very concerned that the language of SB 1 could be expanded at any time to include children that were transitioning. And we saw that with a bill that actually moved this past legislative session that was going to add kids having these kind of transitions into the same law that has to do with protecting abortion.
That the sanctuary state one?
Yes, but the bill didn't move. However, we do have a LGBT plus Q plus
commission.
Yes, commission that is now, they're asking Governor Green to create an administrative order to make Hawaii a sanctuary state.
Well, just on that commission, it appears they combined that commission with the Fatherhood Commission. Yes, because on the letterhead from Galoyu, you got this on this side and Fatherhood Commission on this side.
That's very interesting.
So they probably
I never heard that.
Look at the letter.
I never heard that.
I'll send you a copy of the letter.
That is very interesting because we know people that were on the Fatherhood Commission that recently stepped down. So I wonder if they stepped down because they saw the writing on the wall, or if they stepped down and then this movement happened?
Nothing, I can't really start my weekend unless I see two men chest feeding a baby. I can't start my weekend without that. So, and they support that stuff. Two guys, it's revolting. These guys should be put in jail for child abuse, putting a chemical slurry to get a guy to put some drool outside of his breast tissue. It's disgusting. But they embrace it. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. They're chest feeding. And what is a father if birthing people? You see where I'm going with this?
Well,
it's
okay,
bizarre
all
world.
Right. I was in the minority when we were fighting the birth certificate, when they were going to change the birth certificate so that it would reflect.
X.
Well, no, this was the one that would reflect now your sex change without any showing that it
Did
was
that
changed.
pass?
Oh yeah, that was several years ago.
Yeah.
So here in Hawaii, if I go through all of the proper procedures, my birth certificate will now be changed to my new sex without any amendments. So
And
nobody
they can't
knows.
investigate. They
They
can't go
can't
in.
investigate. So I remember, like,
I remember that.
we were fighting that. People were looking at us like, why are you? This is ridiculous. I mean, what? Well, what it is you, and our testimony said this, and you can look it up. Our public testimony was that you're changing a legal historical document.
Right.
The people, like your parents, were there, and I think they'll be a little shocked to find out that you're no longer what you say.
I wasn't in office then.
Oh yes, you were. You were still in office on that one. But
did you vote with the majority on that?
I don't think so.
we'll have to go look
I
that
better
up.
look it up. I better go look it up.
I would ask my.
You did not. Vote for
thank
it,
you.
so
I would
you
ask
voted
my
against
famous
it.
Democrat friends, some of the guys, I won't mention names, hey, Billy, why did you vote for that? You don't agree with that? No, I don't. Why did you vote for it? Majority position.
Well,
you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Well, I'd like to hear from both of you on. Okay, so parents and grandparents that are listening to this show or watching this show, why should they be concerned about a letter that was written to the state, and how does it affect them, and why should they even care? So we'll start with you.
Well, I think they should know that means the federal government, President Trump administration is looking at this right now, and they're saying there's going to be sanctions. We're going to pull back federal monies that's going to the Department of Education for this program unless you do X, Y, and Z. And it's very clear in this letter what you need to do to remediate this. So it means the state of Hawaii will lose, $85,000 to $135,000. So is that going to make a difference to the DOE?
Yeah, you were the finance chair.
It's not going to make a bean of difference.
Is that all they'll lose?
I think it's really small.
No, because a few years ago, the Education Supplemental Act, right, the ESSA, we got $428 million. $70 million of that.
On this particular program, I think there's an attachment that I looked at earlier, Eva, a breakdown of the states that are being affected.
Yeah.
I think the bigger ones were like California, New York, Texas. Hawaii was really small. So I said, in my opinion, was like, if that's small, no big deal for the.
I don't know enough about it, but I do know that we got $428 million in 2002 COVID education aid, right? The schools were closed. They needed more money for plastic shields. Well, in that, the state of Hawaii got $428 million. 20% of that was set aside for gender ideology and critical race theory in the bill. Critical race theory doesn't apply to Hawaii because nobody's in a super majority, I don't think. But the gender ideology, I know they're going full tilt.
Well, and in the budget bill, Marcus and I broke down the budget bill, the recent one that passed, and there was a couple million for. No, how much for Planned Parenthood?
3 million Planned Parenthood over 2 years, 1.5.
So if they're getting the money, they're obviously there's and their biggest. If you go to Planned Parenthood's website and you're looking at what their efforts are, education.
Yeah, well, okay, if they love the gay children and the disadvantaged children, and that's what they always say. Well, the children need information and education. Okay, well, why do you omit the elevated risks of these anomalous behaviors, these not normal behaviors under Webster's definition, right? So I can tell you, they talk about oral sex, okay? Let's use that one. It can apply to men or females. if a person performs that on 5, it was a male study, so 5 different males, their risk for oral cancer goes up by 200%. Now, I'm looking at this in this loosey-goosey environment where we're telling all the kids, and we are telling them, hey, if you're not having sex, you're losing out. I mean, that's the implication. If you're not having sex, you're losing out. So these young girls are under enormous pressure, not just from the boys, but society now to have sex, and maybe they don't want to lose their virginity, so they'll do this. That's one. Let's go to the HIV. Male on male, unprotected versus male female. They present it as they're equal. They're equal. They're the same. They're equal. There's equity. Everything is the same. 3 to 5,000. 3 to 5,000. That's 3,000, not the number 3. 3,000 to 5,000, depending on what study you look at. So I took the lowest study, 3,000% greater risk of catching HIV, which left untreated will kill you, and even treated can kill you. So they don't care about. They want to change the way kids think. That's why they got to get them at kindergarten to undercut mom and dad's inculcation of the values. Because once they get to high school, they already got their values set, and that's from the home, and mom and dad hopefully take them to church occasionally.
Well, and maybe that's the bottom line. The bottom line is that if parents aren't paying attention to what their kids are learning in school, and obviously if there is this kind of stuff that's being taught there, as parents, we should know. We should definitely be
You're
on
paying
top
the
of
bill.
We're definitely, yes. So this is the question that we need to be answering is what are they learning? And is it worth it, right? And do we need to start raising our voice?
We've undercut parental rights everywhere. That's where you're going with this. 14-year-old girl wants to go see a doctor. Mom and dad are told to stay outside. They're allowed to pay the copay, but that's it.
And if you take the parent out of the equation, we're going to have kids that are going to start having the whole confusion about their gender. And if that happens and Hawaii becomes a sanctuary state, which is really what all of this boils down to, right? Hawaii becomes a sanctuary state, and that means kids from California or New York or any red state could come to Hawaii and have this done, and could they do it without their parents' consent?
I want to ask the lawyer here a question. With the sanctuary state, what's the difference between me kidnapping my son to take away from my wife in Oklahoma, and I'm going to come to Hawaii? I've kidnapped him because we're having a custody dispute, as opposed to me taking him to Hawaii and get this transgender surgery.
Okay, there's existing law right now that covers all of these issues within the states, and basically you can't do that without being prosecuted for kidnapping and transporting a child between a state. But if the sanctuary state goes into effect, or that crazy bill that's being contemplated right now goes into effect, that's going to create that problem. It's going to become as if Hawaii will be a sanctuary for those parents or those individuals taking kids from one state to another state.
The other parent who disagrees with the transit has no recourse.
Will have no access to the courts. That's right. No recourse.
And they can't even get the records, right?
That's right.
Because
you'll be punished. You'll be prosecuted if you were to release any of the information.
So not only is the parent who is acting outside of the permission of the other parent set free, the doctor that does all of the procedures also can.
What was that bill? 1350.
It was 1150.
1150. Senate Bill 1150, and it's still alive. So we got to look for that for next year.
Right. Yeah. Now, is it your group that's doing the petition? There's some group right now that's doing a petition on the bill. We haven't been pushing out the petition because I want to see what's happening on the bill. It could be another bill, right? And I want to make sure if you have a petition that says we're against SB 1150 and they do a new bill, then it becomes too confusing.
It only has to go through the Senate this time.
Right,
because it went through the House already. And it limped out of the House. It had like 9 votes. That's a limp for that House.
Yeah, but it can move very quickly in 2026, so we got to watch that.
Yeah.
So We have just run out of time, but it's so important that we stay plugged in to all of the stuff happening at the state legislature. So make sure that you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know every time we upload a new video. And make sure that you stay plugged into Hawaii Family Forum so that we can tell you when these bills come up at the Capitol, because we're going to put all the tools into your hand when these bills start to move. And Marcus and I are going to continue to have the conversation. So that's all we can say to this is you got to stay on top of all this. And if you can't, we'll help you do it. So we will see all of you next week. Mahalo, everybody.